In full disclosure, I have a confession. I'm a Facebook stalker. I'm that person who doesn't really post a whole lot about my own life, but I know everything that's going on in all my friends' life. And in my Facebook stalking, I've noticed something. I've noticed our conversation about mental health has changed. It used to be silence when we talked about mental health, but now we have more people talking about how we can make a difference. This even includes some of our celebrities, like Charlamagne the God from The Breakfast Club, Taraji P. Henson, a noted actress, and Sterling K. Brown from This Is Us. They are standing with us to say it's time for us to have meaningful conversation about mental health. And as a psychologist, I'm here for all of that because we need to have that conversation. 1 in 5 adults in this country has had, is having, or will have a mental illness. 18% of adults in this nation are saying, I don't feel my best mentally at least half of the month. And when we're talking about people who are dealing with emotional health issues, only 30% are actually getting help. That means we have a lot of people out there in need of emotional health care, and they're doing it all by themselves. So that's why I get to do what I do, which is go around the state and talk about mental health. And we go into communities and we say, hey, we need to have this conversation. They're like, yes, we need to have this conversation. Please come talk to us. And then we come down with our team and we sit down and we have the conversation and nobody shows up. Or one person shows up. And so then we say, hey, what happened? I thought y'all were ready for this conversation. And they say, oh, no, I don't need the conversation. Those people over there need it. I'm not the one that's crazy. It's the people in my community that are crazy. I wanted you to help them. And I noticed that even though we're talking more about mental health, we're looking at mental health through a window where we can see other people and not a mirror where we see ourselves. And what that means is that when we're talking about mental health, it's someone else's issue, not our issue. And if we're going to make meaningful change about mental health, it has to become our issue. So then how do we do that? How do we make it our issue? Well, we can start by talking about the things in our environment that lead to poor emotional health. I heard a story recently where someone went to a pond and all the fish were dead. And they said, we can look at those fish and say, what's wrong with those fish? Or we can say, what's wrong with the water that's causing all the fish to die? And do you know that there's some things in our society that make us have some emotional health issues? I'm here to tell you, it is hard to be emotionally healthy when you are broke, when you're hungry, when you don't have a job, when you're dealing with grief and loss. And all of those things are going on in our society on a daily basis. So it makes sense that we're not always okay. But maybe if we start explaining it like that, people will be more likely to open up and say, hey, I'm not okay. Or maybe we need to target the cultural beliefs that make it hard to talk about mental health. You know the ones when we go to rural communities and it's like hard work can handle anything. Or maybe when we go to faith communities and we hear, I'm too blessed to be stressed. Or some ethnic minority groups that say, I should be able to handle anything because I have this history of resilience in my bloodline and they had to deal with adversity. So maybe we start talking about those cultural beliefs and actually saying it is completely possible to be blessed and stressed. Or I can have a lot of resilience in my background and still be having issues dealing with adversity. Maybe that's what we need. And if we do those two things, if we talk about what goes on in our environment and we target cultural beliefs, that's great. But let me tell you about what happens when we start telling our story. So NAMI Arkansas, an organization here, had a mental health awareness walk. And the executive director invited a young man from his church who was living with mental illness. And the next day, he went to church, and you know that quiet time before church starts? The young man came running up to him and said, hey, guess what I found out yesterday? I found out that I'm not different. And isn't that really what keeps us looking at mental health through a window? It's because we're afraid that if we say I'm not okay, it's going to make us different. But when we start telling our stories, we realize that the things that we think are going to make us different really are the things that unite us. I saw this at work when I was working with 3 young ladies who had been working on one of my projects for years. And we were having a conversation, and one of the young ladies said, you know, I lost my job once, and when I lost my job, I stopped wearing makeup, and I started wearing the clothes I like to wear, and that's not like me. And when she had the courage to mention that time when she wasn't okay, everyone else in the room had permission to do it too. So someone else said, hey, I had a time where I didn't leave this room. I only went in one room in my house. Someone else said, I wasn't going out like I used to. And even I talked about how I didn't clean my house for 6 months after my mom died. And let me tell you, if she was here, she would not be okay with that. But we all were in there, and we united, and we bonded in a different way. And our work changed because we were no longer looking at it doing something for someone else. We were looking at doing something for all of us. I saw the power of telling stories again recently after the tragic helicopter crash in California that took the lives of 9 individuals, including NBA legend Kobe Bryant. For the first time, maybe not the first time, but I don't see a lot of grown women and men actually openly talking about their pain. But on national TV, I saw adults saying, hey, I'm not okay. Hey, I'm hurting. Hey, this is hard. And because they had the courage to do that, I saw people in my own social circle saying, I remember when I had to deal with grief and this was difficult. And I remember when I had to do this and this was hard. And I'm not okay. And what do I do to get help? And how do I talk about this with other people? So the courage of standing up and saying, I'm not okay, actually was a catalyst for people who are starting their journey to getting emotionally well. So how do we do this? How do we tell our stories? For some people, it's just sharing the message that being okay, not being okay really is okay. You can wear a t-shirt. For other people, it may be creating a safe space for people to talk about their mental health issues. We see college professors having ribbons on their door to say, you can come talk to me whenever. We have support groups at churches and organizations where people can say, I want to talk about these issues. For others, it means being lending an ear to somebody, being a listening ear. Also, it means maybe connecting them to services that they need. But for everybody, it means that we are openly admitting the times when we're not okay. Because we can all say there's been at least one time when we weren't okay. And we're looking for intentional opportunities to share that story. Not just to talk about the times when we were down, but to give hope, to say that even if we're not okay, we can still move forward to being okay later. So as I wrap this up, next time I'm at Facebook stalking, which won't be long from now, I hope that the mental health conversation changes again. I hope that I see people openly saying, hey, I'm not okay. And I hope that I see people saying, it's okay that you're not okay. Not because we want to stay there, but because we realize that admitting that you're not okay is the first step to really being okay. Thank you.